What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Thank you for your patience. I will just tell you the quick story here. I bought a new adapter to be able to plug in the camera and mic to the computer because I have a MacBook. It doesn't go USB, and of course, the one that I get from Best Buy in Manhattan yesterday to make it work while I was there for the K-State game doesn't want to work with my equipment when I get back here. I was at my girlfriend's house, and so I knew I had to get back to the other adapter, which would require, of course, me traveling about 20 minutes to get back home. So anyway, I'm here. Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience. We are ready to go. I assume and think everything should be okay from here. So anyway, I loved the comment. Where did I see it earlier? It's always 7:15 somewhere, boys. Yeah, well, here in the Central Time Zone, 8:15 usually our kick time. It's always 8:15 somewhere, or just it's 8:15 somewhere, right? I feel like that's very appropriate. So anyway, I'm here. We've got a late start, but we'll make it work. All right, my friends, thank you very much. Okay, so, man, it was not a real wild weekend in the Big 12 from the standpoint of a bunch of crazy upsets. We did have some wild games, particularly K-State, Kansas, TCU, Texas Tech. But I think in general, the way things have been playing out for this league in the broader scope of the college football universe is very, very good for not only the Big 12's playoff chances, but just general Big 12 respect. I think it was a really good week for the Big 12, and we continue to move toward a very positive season for the league on a national scale. Now, at the end of the day, it will only be a really positive season for the league if there is noise made in the college football playoff. But you're setting up to give yourself, I think, the best chance really to do that, which is great. Some of that is about our friends in Provo. And maybe we are now at the point where people will stop doubting BYU and people will stop disrespecting BYU. Are we at that point yet? Can we please stop doing that? Stop making them underdogs in road games against sub 500 teams, because Jake Retzloff and company really shut that up. I loved a lot of his post-game comments about it too, kind of rolling his eyes more or less as nicely as you can, because, you know, they're BYU players. They're going to be pretty nice about it in general. But we've got to stop it with this on BYU. I also think really the top four teams in the Big 12 have now separated themselves, and they are better than a lot of people would think just on the surface. And on the surface, that means looking at the name of the team that is there, because the problem that the Big 12 has is, well, there are four teams that have separated, and I think are giving them a chance to play out this best case scenario. It's not the teams everybody expected at the beginning of the year, which means there's not the built up credibility that you would have for a Utah or an Oklahoma State, for instance, when it's BYU and Iowa State. So a lot to talk about. You guys know, if you've been here before, this show originates from Big 12 country. It is certainly a Big 12 centric show, but it's a college football show. We're going to talk about everything that's going on in college football, what matters to college football. We appreciate you joining, all of you who have. Thank you so much. Please like the video. Make sure you're subscribed if you are not. I see the viewing numbers, and typically many of you are not subscribed when you are in here. So like the video, and if you want to be a part of the conversation tonight, obviously fill up the chat, but the way to guarantee that you make it on is to do what many of you already have, which is click the $ below the chat box. It will create a super chat. Your donation will then put your chat in a separate column for me, and it will guarantee that it gets read on the show here tonight. So that's how you can get your question or comment in for sure. And I greatly appreciate all of you who do that and who support the channel like that. Genuinely could not do it without your support. So thank you very much. Also, you can be a part of the conversation on Venmo. It is John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo to do that. And that is mainly for those of you who are not able to watch live. And if you do leave a donation there and a question or comment with it, I will kick off the next show with it, so you can still be a part of the conversation. And that's where we start with Stuart, good old Stuart Scott. Thank you, Stuart, for being here. Stuart on Venmo, John-Kurtz-4 says, Sorry to be redundant for the third Sunday in a row, but I enjoy picking on KU and Utah. Those two, plus the other preseason favorites, Oklahoma State and Arizona, went 0 for 4 this weekend. So BYU continues to have more conference wins than all of them combined. As cool as the other side of the pillow, as always, Stu, thank you for that. You are correct. It is crazy. John Wilner had a great tweet. See if I can pull it up real quick. He had a great tweet showing the Big 12 standings from the beginning of the year and where everybody is at. And outside of K-State, it's not good. It is not good. Here, I've got this pulled up here. So look at this. This is the top 5 in the Big 12 preseason media poll, folks. Utah at 1-4. They've lost 4 straight. They're bottoming out. K-State holding strong. Oklahoma State 0-5. Mike Gundy says everybody needs to do some soul searching. Things are a disaster. Kansas playing much better, but still 1-4. And Arizona showed some fight, but man, Brent Brennan seems to be in some real trouble, at least in terms of generating support from the fan base. So to Stewart's point, that is the type of year that it has been so far in the Big 12, but that does not mean that it's a bad thing for the league, because if Iowa State, BYU, K-State, and Colorado keep winning, which if you look to the schedule, there's a very good chance that could happen. This could play out very, very well. Very, very well for the league as a whole. Okay, let's get to some super chats because, boy, they are flowing in here. I'm going to get to a couple, get into the show. So be patient with me tonight, especially with the late start. I know people are really chomping at the bit here. We will work everything in, I promise. I want to throw out one other note here. Make sure if you are a Big 12 fan or just a college football fan in general and you want to stay up to date on the Big 12, without Big 10 or SEC news, you can do so. My Big 12 newsletter, open for business, ofbnews.com to get subscribed. You can get Big 12 news straight to your inbox, filtered through to you 3 times a week. Join 2,600 plus other Big 12 fans who subscribe at ofbnews.com. Again, that is ofbnews.com. There's also a link in the description of this video. Daniel, what's going on, Daniel? Thank you for being here. Cat fan in Huskerland, a.k.a. Daniel Osborne, says, the Sunflower Showdown lived up to the hype. Good game, KU, but way to go, Cats. Sweet 16. That's right, 16 wins in a row for K-State over Kansas. You love to see it. Also, the Chiefs beating the Raiders makes this the perfect weekend. Yeah, I've been working all day today, getting all this ready and open for business ready. So I actually have not seen the Chiefs game, but I did see the score. So thank you, Daniel. I appreciate your support. Daniel popping in a couple of times here. Thank you very much, sir. Alan also wants to comment on the other side of the Sunflower Showdown. Alan says, John, congrats on a hard-fought win. Nothing worse than losing to K-State, but proud that our guys never quit. Class remark by Kleiman on Lance. We're pulling for K-State to win the college football playoff. Rock Chalk Jayhawk and Ema Allen. Well, thank you, Alan, for being so cordial as always. That's got to be excruciating as a Kansas fan to lose that way twice in a row, like back-to-back years. I mean, last year, I think K-State absolutely stole one. This year, kind of did. I mean, you can certainly make that argument. Kansas left plenty out there as well, though. And like both years, it's like, if Kansas' special teams were just net neutral, they probably win both games. But that was not the case. It was a wild game. Very good college football game, a fun college football game. Not exactly the most well played, but that was a really good game, and Kansas absolutely fought their asses off. So you definitely have that to be proud of, Alan. I appreciate you. Rise and Shout. Rise and Shout says, I just want to give a shout out to all the Big 12 teams. Thank you for humbling Utah's football team. More importantly, their Twitter fans. Boy, they have just been neutered. Like, what do you do if you're a Utah fan right now, man? 4 straight losses. You just lost to Houston. Quarterback situation, no matter who it is that they're playing right now, out of the 2 that they have available behind Cam Rising, the offense stinks. Apparently getting Andy Ludwig out of there was not going to be the answer to provide some sort of immediate spark. Utah is in a world of trouble, and that's got to be super humbling. You can say all you want about Cam Rising. The offense can't be that bad, even if Cam Rising isn't out there playing. The offense has to be better and more effective than that. Barely being able to put up 2 touchdowns every single week is not going to get it done. And that's a sign that you've got bigger problems than just the quarterback. So yes, Rise and Shout. Very, very much so a problem for Utah, and very, very humbling. Very humbling. Browns and Beers. What's up, Browns and Beers? John with the girlfriend. As much as I hate it, Morgantown better trust the climb. Ooh, okay. What a win in Tucson. We're getting back on board, West Virginia fans. I like that. All right. I know Tetaroa McMillan went wild. Had to hold off a bit of a late charge there. But yeah, nice road win for Neil Brown. Browns and Beers, as you know, the problem will always be if, he can string wins like that together. But when it comes to beating a ranked team, taking one of those big next steps, when's that going to happen? That is the question, really, with Neil Brown right now. Michael just chiming in with a K. Okay. All right. Hey, hope I'm not missing something else from you, Michael, but thank you for being here and thank you for your contribution as always and your well wishes earlier this week. Thank you very much. Okay. We're close here. I'm going to pop in the rest of these because I think it will dovetail perfectly into where I want to start the show. James, my Pokes are dragging down the Big 12 with the worst defense in the country. Sorry, Big 12. Oh, yeah, I saw some clips going around of tackling issues that Oklahoma State was having where, you're letting Baylor roll up 300-plus rushing yards on you. Baylor's got a decent offense. Sawyer Robertson has been playing pretty well, and I think has rejuvenated them in a lot of ways. And frankly, if they just don't give up a Hail Mary against Colorado, we'd be talking about Baylor in a much, much different way. But still, yeah, Oklahoma State's defense should be much better. I know a lot of injuries there, James. I guess in fairness, I would say that too. You're missing some of your best defenders, but man, it's rough right now. Rough out here in these streets in Stillwater. I empathize with you on that, James. That is a rough place to be. All right, well, let's do this. James, go Cats. Yes, indeed. Go Cats, baby. Got it done, but a hell of a game. I was not in a mood to talk a whole lot of smack after that game because I was like, man, that was terrifying, and Kansas played really well. Got to give Jalen Daniels a lot of credit. Made some big mistakes, but that's one of those, like, you're definitely not in the game without him, even if you did lose the game in part because of him. And Lewis, thank you, sir. Lewis says, glad K-State won. Lots of weird and 4 top 25 teams finally. Okay, BYU. Lewis says, BYU seems 1A, ISU 1B. I would caution you against that just a bit by saying Iowa State didn't play this weekend and BYU had one of their more impressive performances of the year. We still probably need to evaluate it more as a whole than just like right now. I think the recency bias might lead you to be more inclined to say that. I would probably still flip-flop that. But BYU is getting more disrespect, it feels like, in a lot of ways nationally. So I do want to stick up for BYU specifically later on here in the show. But Phil Steele, Athlon, and Lindy's were right. Teams from Utah, number 1, and in the basement. Just got the jerseys wrong. That's pretty good, Lewis. That's pretty good. You're right. There is a team from Utah that's at the top of the Big 12 standings, and there is a team from Utah that's dragging up the rear. Just not quite the order that we all saw coming. And on that note, that is perfect. Thank you for leading me there, Lewis. I showed you the tweet earlier. The top 5 in the preseason Big 12 poll, 4 of the 5 have 1 or fewer Big 12 wins right now. Arizona and Kansas, but then Oklahoma State and Utah. It has not worked out the way that everybody thought it was going to this year in the league. But I would still tell you, in spite of that, the league has positioned itself through 9 weeks now as well as you really possibly could to make a splash on the national scene this year. How do you make a splash on the national scene? You do that basically above all else by winning games in the college football playoff. So to do that, what do you need to do? We need to get as many teams as possible into the college football playoff. I think the Big 12 is very well positioned right now to give it their best run at having multiple teams into the playoff. And this weekend was a big weekend for that. Because if you look at what happened, BYU just keeps winning. And as Lewis just mentioned, you can certainly argue that they are 1A. They're either 1A or 1B in the Big 12. They're an unbeaten team, and this was a week where everybody was doubting them. Foolish. I thought it was very foolish. If you watch my 3-Maw podcast, I called out my 2 co-hosts who were both on UCF as their pick of the week against the spread. I thought it was foolish, and it turned out to be very, very foolish. I don't know why. And nothing against UCF. I was very high on them at the beginning of the year, but they have done zero to earn my trust this year to be able to beat a team as poised and complete as BYU, no matter where the game was being played. Iowa State was off, so that's fine. They march on another week, still unbeaten. K-State survived, which is really all they needed to do. Now, I'm not here to tell you there's no concern for K-State coming out of that game. Got pushed around at times. I thought Kansas won the battle at the line of scrimmage for a good portion of that game. Secondary and the defense in general continues to have some issues. But they found a way to make plays to win the game when it mattered most and really just survive and advance. Make sure you get to Farmageddon and set that game up to be as big as possible. One combined loss between the two teams, and that would be huge for the league. And then Colorado took care of business. And none of this is like, I'm not, look, it's not like I'm saying, hey, Cincinnati, go lose. I need you to lose that game. But if you are looking at the Big 12, the best thing for the league to get multiple teams into the playoff would have been for Kansas, UCF, and Cincinnati to lose those games to preserve the top four there. And the other piece of this is that Travis Hunter had a phenomenal game. And depending on where you look now, some of the betting odds have Travis Hunter as the favorite to win the Heisman. And that's another way you can generate some real attention for the league, is if you go out and win a Heisman Trophy for your league this year. It may be a bit of a double-edged sword with Colorado, because I do feel like some people still subscribe to the, Prime is going to leave once Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders are gone. But that's still a very beneficial thing for the league if you can get a Heisman Trophy in a year where you have multiple teams in the playoff, first year of the expanded playoff. That would be the dream. And I think you're pretty well positioned to do that. We also saw it like Texas Tech, bad loss. They're fading now from contender conversation. I know I saw a little bit of conversation on TCU Twitter about, hey, pretty manageable schedule coming down the stretch here. TCU, could they win out, go 9-3, backdoor their way in? It's fine to have that conversation. I have not seen enough consistency at all from TCU, who, by the way, continues to turn it over like crazy, even in that Tech game. I'm not buying them as a legit contender. So you have a solidified top four now. And guess what? This week, all four teams are in the top 25 of the AP poll. It's a very good thing. Even if Dion said after the game he doesn't want Colorado to be ranked, they are ranked, entering the AP poll at number 23. It's a good thing to have four established teams that between all four of them have a combined 3 losses. That's pretty good. You need teams to have some real meat on the bone at the higher end of the poll. That is what you need. The ACC argument against the Big 12 has been, Miami and Clemson, we still have schools that are beginning of the year would have been Florida State in the top 10. We still are top heavier than you. And if we're being honest, you can say all you want about having the depth and fun and exciting, but you need teams that draw attention at the top of the league. One season is not going to make that a national brand, but it will certainly help for this year in how things are evaluated if you have teams that keep winning and concentrate some of that winning up at the top. So that is a good thing. It's great if you want to have this, hey, it's wild, zany conference. Anybody can beat anybody. It's such a fun league. It's almost patronizing the way that a lot of people say that, people that cover college football nationally. And it makes you think that it's a little lazy. They maybe don't even really follow or cover the conference that much. It's not something that you really want. What you want is people to be saying, damn, like BYU and Iowa State, like nobody's beating them. We have to talk about them. We are forced to talk about them because they are unbeaten and in the top 10. And K-State has a bit of a reputation built by the consistency they've had over the last 3 or 4 years. We expected them to be good. And with one slip up to a team who's still unbeaten, they still look pretty damn good too. And now Colorado, for obvious reasons, is a draw. But it's not just this kind of superfluous, what it was last year, superficial, like, hey, Travis Hunter's fun and Shedeur Sanders. And, it's kind of a sideshow last year. There's substance to it now. They're winning games. There is substance to it, and they have the Heisman favorite. That's about as well as this could have played out. Colorado, I said it from the beginning. I thought they would be like a 6 or a 7 win team, but if they were to be more than that, it would have been great for the league because it'll generate a lot of attention. And that's exactly what's happening. So people are now having to pay attention to BYU and Iowa State. Let me present some more evidence to you here as to why this is a really good thing. Okay. Josh Pate, one of the biggest voices in college football right now, says this: I've added a BYU segment to tonight's show. This will not be easy for me. And that's after a BYU fan very nicely kind of called him out. BYU fans, I love you guys. You're so damn nice. But very nicely called him out, gave him a little nudge, like, come on, man, give us some respect. Basically the idea here, like, Kate, please give us some respect now that we're 8-0. And Josh Pate did on his show today. I have not listened to the entire segment, but I did catch the beginning of his show, and I heard him say, I have an apology coming for BYU. You're forcing the hand of all these people. They are having to talk about you right now, and that is a very, very good thing for the league. And now, if you start to think about, okay, how's this going to play out moving forward? What are the odds, John, that this group of four is able to stay at a place where they are winning and they all get to double-digit wins, and it makes it a tough decision for the committee, and we have, big games down the stretch where people are going to want to be watching these teams because, if BYU keeps winning, they'll get more national TV opportunities because people want to see, like, are they going to be able to do this? Are they really going to be able to pull off the unbeaten regular season? You want that kind of intrigue. That's better than, hey, we know that both of these, 7-4 teams are very evenly matched and it could be a wild zany. No, you need is someone going to spring the big upset on the unbeaten. That's what you want. If you go look at the remaining schedules here, man, you only have one game played between any of the top four teams left on the schedule, which I understand how you might say, well, John, it would actually be great if you had all those teams really playing each other here. And if they had set the schedule up that way, nobody could have predicted this is how it would play out. But if they had set the schedule up that way, that would be awesome to get all those games coming down the stretch. But I would actually tell you, no, I think this is better because you can avoid these teams beating up on each other. And you can wind up in a scenario where you've got four teams with double-digit wins here at the end of the regular season. Iowa State, K-State is the only game where two of the teams will play each other, and that is the last weekend of the regular season on November 30th. We're over a month away from that. So this really could happen. The schedules are pretty manageable if you start to look at these. K-State out of the group is going to wind up playing the toughest schedule because they get all three of those other teams, Colorado, Iowa State, BYU, on the road this year. They are 1-1 so far with the Iowa State game still to come. But I would actually argue that it's pretty fortuitous the way that it's worked out, where now you've got the opportunity for these teams, if they can take care of business, to just keep trucking toward the end of the year. A really exciting shuffling process of who's going to make the Big 12 title game. And then other teams that might be sitting there like, hey, we should be in the at-large conversation, and you will really hold the committee's feet to the fire. Just thinking about this year, I'm not even going to go down the road of like, all right, if it does work out for the Big 12 in terms of multiple teams in the playoff, do the SEC and Big 10 get mad? Does that lead to more auto bids for them and taking the committee out of it? Like things that could be whatever. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. For now, you need as many teams in to give yourself the best chance to make noise and win games in the playoff. So, man, there are scenarios here. We talked about the one the other day that came from a great listener and reader who said K-State, BYU, and Iowa State could all wind up 12-1 or 11-1. K-State wins out, plays BYU in the championship game, beats BYU, gives them their first loss. Iowa State's only loss is Farmageddon to K-State. Then you've got 12-1 K-State and BYU and 11-1 Iowa State. And that's a hell of a combo to see what the selection committee will actually do. There's a scenario where it could play out very similarly, but you've got a 10-2 Colorado in the mix as well. What does the committee do then? You know Colorado is going to be a huge draw. If Colorado goes 10-2, I'd imagine Travis Hunter is still at the worst a Heisman finalist, even if he's not winning the award. And as I said, right now, some betting markets have him as the favorite. So this is a good scenario, man. This is a good scenario. And BYU's got a bye week this week, so it means that November 9th, we'll still be talking about unbeaten BYU that late into the regular season. They're playing Utah, and I know there will probably be some cynicism from people about how that game will go, even as bad as Utah has been. But man, if you go look at BYU's remaining schedule, it's doable. It is very doable. They're not playing K-State the rest of the year. They took care of that. They are not playing Iowa State. They are not playing Colorado. So exciting times. I would just frame it to you that way. I think it's a very exciting time for the Big 12 trying to shake things up right now, the way this is going. And it didn't feel great. You know, I had probably my worst take one of my worst takes of my career, which spans over a decade now, was, hey, Utah came in, won at Oklahoma State with the true freshman quarterback. They're head and shoulders above everybody else. No, not how it's worked out. They've completely tanked. And yet Iowa State, BYU, K-State, Colorado have done the heavy lifting for the league to put them in a very, very good position. All right. If you want to submit a super chat, you can do so by clicking the $ below the chat box. Appreciate all the guys who do that. It will attach a donation to your chat. It guarantees that you will get read here on the show tonight. John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you would like to do that as well. If you're not watching live, and then I'll kick off the next show with your question or comment. And we've got a ton of people in here right now. A lot of people from Twitter. So I appreciate all of you who are here. But whether you're here from Twitter or YouTube, make sure that you are subscribed to my Big 12 newsletter. I'm giving you Big 12 news without SEC or Big 10 bias. I'm filtering out all the Big 10 and SEC crap. So you just get news, how it matters to the Big 12, straight to your inbox 3 times a week. Join 2,600 plus other Big 12 fans who read Open for Business. It's ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com to subscribe, or click the link in the description of this video. I appreciate that a lot. And if you are on Twitter, you want to be a part of the live chat here on YouTube, just go on over to YouTube. It's John Kurtz, just my name, JOHNKURTZ, to get set up on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe. Everybody who's in here right now, although we've actually got a pretty big YouTube audience, bigger than normal tonight, make sure you guys are all subscribed. Click that subscribe button. I would much appreciate that, because about 50% of you typically are not, who watch here. So double check, even if you think that you are, double check and make sure that you are subscribed. All right, Jake, we've got more Utah talk here. Jake says, looking at their remaining schedule, I think Utah may not win another game. 3 top 25 teams and a finish at the bounce house. 4-8, a real possibility. I can't wait. I assume that means Jake can't wait for the Holy War. Go Cougs, because this is a Holy War I would very much be looking forward to if I were BYU. Utah's schedule left. They have to play BYU at home. They are at Colorado. They will host Iowa State, and then they go to UCF. Really, the only thing I would say there is we'll see what UCF is going to be by November 29th, a game that was like a dark horse, massive Big 12 game this year for me in the offseason. Is going to be a dud. But the question will be, like, will UCF still have bowl eligibility to play for at that point? How motivated will they be for that game? But yeah, Utah's going to need to win 2 of those to get bowl eligible. I mean, they're going to be an underdog in all overwhelming likelihood in all 4 of those games. So yeah, that's pretty rough. That's rough sledding right now for the Utes. That's very rough sledding. Thank you, Jake. Michael, K-State BYU Conference Championship game. Cats versus Cougs and Jews. BYU, that's right. Let's go. I would love nothing more, my friend. I would enjoy the hell out of that, and would love to hang out with all you guys, see all my BYU folks in Arlington. That would be great, man. I had a blast there 2 years ago, and would love to do it again. It's possible, but man, I feel like, and Michael, you may have even told me this, some BYU fan did recently, mentioned it to me, like feeling almost a bit of a mental block with the Utah game, because, Utah had won 9 straight before the last one a couple of years ago. I've got a bit of that going on with Iowa State right now, especially in Ames, for sure. Matt Campbell has gotten the better of Chris Kleiman many a time. The snow game last year, obviously a big part of that. So I am very leery of that game. There's a lot of work left to do, but yes, it is very much on the table. Thank you, Michael. Eddie, what's up, Eddie? Thank you, Eddie, for being here. Eddie says, great week of Big 12 football. I listened to the other conference team podcast. They are ready to fire. Congrats to Baylor, BYU, TCU, Houston, K-State, and Colorado. Not what I expected, but it has been fun. Yes, it has been very fun and completely topsy-turvy, upside down, to the point, Eddie, of the Big 12 standings that we showed at the beginning of the show. So love it. Thank you for your passion for the league. Thank you for being here as always and your support of the channel. If you guys need a real estate agent in San Antonio, Eddie Lozano. Eddie is your guy. Venomous Viking. What's up, Venomous Viking? For those new to the Holy War, rankings and expectations don't generally matter. Here we go. Here we go. This is exactly the point that I was making. Especially when Utah's in the spoiler position, I expect the game to be a nasty, close one, Cougs by 3. Both teams will be coming off of a bye week. You got to wait until November 9th for it, but I would expect a competitive game. In some ways, similar, Venomous Viking, to K-State KU. You know, I mean, Kansas rolled in at 2-5, and I generally expected it was going to be a pretty tight battle. I didn't think it would be that tight, but I thought K-State would get a big-time fight from Kansas, and they absolutely did. So I feel you, and I know a lot of BYU fans are with you on that as well. So thank you, Venomous Viking, for being here and for your support of the channel. Nate, what's up, Nate? Nate says, John, congrats on winning the Sunflower Showdown. Really want my Cyclones to beat the Thunder Kittens in Farmageddon. However, I'm worried the laundry list of injuries will catch up to them. Go Cyclones. I mean, hopefully the bye week helps a bit for that, Nate, but you're right. I mean, I know we talked about the stat the other day that 102 players had already played for Iowa State this year out of the 120 that started fall camp, which is crazy. There have been a ton of injuries, and maybe it will slow them down. Maybe the UCF game was not an aberration. I tend to think that it was. But we'll see. We'll see. Now, I am starting to see a lot of these. I'm starting to see some of the super chats again, like showing up as repeats. So give me 1 second here. We'll dive a little bit deeper into the show and then get to the rest of that. But appreciate all the guys who are here. Click the $ below the chat box if you want to submit to that. So I know whenever the AP rankings come out, it's like a Big 12 tradition this season to get upset with them. I'm just here to tell you that, well, I'm not saying the AP poll is great, but I think we're not going to have to worry about this for much longer. In another week, it will matter basically zero. It doesn't really matter right now, but your worry will be put totally aside in just over a week. In fact, about 8 days from now. The Big 12 top 4, I think, is better than it generally gets credit for. You have all 4 teams now ranked. BYU is 9th. Iowa State's 11th. K-State's 17th. They dropped a spot, which, you know, you can tell I'm like rolling my eyes as I read that. Colorado is 23rd. They finally jump into the polls. It's very well deserved. But a lot of disrespect here. Like I said, K-State drops a spot. Kansas is 2-5. I get it. But it's a rivalry game, dude. Weird stuff happens. Kansas is clearly much better than their record. But even if you don't want to have that sort of semantic talk, like, it just feels like teams from the Big Ten and SEC are not penalized the same type of way. Or, for instance, Notre Dame. Okay? Notre Dame, not penalized the same way. Notre Dame, do you recall who they lost to earlier this year? The Fighting Irish lost at home to one Northern Illinois, who I believe just lost to Ball State. So it's frustrating to see that Notre Dame is 1 spot in front of BYU. I will bring up the poll here to show you that they are still 1 spot above the good old Cougars here. I understand that Notre Dame won at Texas A&M. I know that people will say, well, they just drilled Navy. I mean, okay, we'll see how Navy finishes the year. I will be very interested to see how Navy finishes the year and how impressive that looks by the end of it. But it is frustrating to have unbeaten BYU there with wins over SMU and K-State, who have not lost to anybody not named BYU. And yet Notre Dame, who has the worst loss of certainly anybody in the top 15. I was about to say top 25. I'd have to go through the list and really think about that. You know, maybe you can, like, Mizzou somehow is hanging on in the top 25, which is a joke. And they've got the 41-10 loss in College Station. But for the intents and purposes of this discussion, I'm not sure that you're finding anybody who's going to have a worse loss than at home to Northern Illinois. But yet there Notre Dame is back into the top 10 and with backing, because I'm sure a lot of you saw, I wish I had the clip for you ready. I don't. But Nicole Auerbach was on a panel of people on NBC, just happens to be the rights holder for Notre Dame home games, on NBC talking about, oh, they've earned the right to be in the playoff. They have put the Northern Illinois game behind them. They deserve to be in there. Like, okay, of course, we're going to have NBC carrying water for Notre Dame. Like, they need that. Would never happen. Would never happen to anybody in the Big 12, man. Would absolutely never happen. But yet here we are. In 2020, right? Iowa State makes a run to the Fiesta Bowl in the Big 12 championship game. They lost a game to Louisiana at the beginning of that season. There was nobody sticking up for Iowa State. Oh, they've earned the right. They put that behind them. Look at how they're playing. They beat Oklahoma. No, there was none of that. It was, well, how good can that team really be? They lost to Louisiana. Double standard. We know how that works. And we do see a lot of that at play in the AP poll right now. Iowa State, for instance, is behind a Texas A&M team that does have a loss. They have that home loss to Notre Dame. And K-State, at 17, they're behind 2-loss LSU. One of those losses is to a very bad USC team. Alabama has lost to Vandy, who definitely is not what you typically think of as Vandy. But, Alabama has not played well in almost a month since we had that Georgia game. And they're still there, of course, with 2 losses ahead of 1 loss, K-State. So it's frustrating. I mean, you look at the resume of these teams, like I truly do think these resumes are better than the average college football fan realizes or thinks. I mean, SMU has not lost since that BYU game, right? And SMU is now into the poll at number 20 in the country, 7-1. That's a great non-con win. They went on the road. BYU went on the road and did that to them. And I think in part because of the way some of this works out, that game at the time didn't feel like a big deal. SMU was playing like crap at the beginning of the season. Now SMU is playing much better, and it's harder for people in retrospect to go look at, oh yeah, wait, here's SMU. Remember that BYU played them and just sucked the life out of them at the beginning of the year? No, nobody's going back and really doing that. No, you don't get a whole lot of that. Also, you look at K-State. K-State has not lost since that BYU game, and I think you can make an argument if you're just going eye test that K-State could be in the conversation 1A, 1B, 1C right now in the Big 12. And the overall strength of schedule for BYU is 31. It's not top 10, but that's not bottom 10 either. I think BYU's resume is looking a lot better than people would give it credit for. K-State has a non-con win over Tulane, who's 6-2. Their only other loss was at Oklahoma, and that was a close loss. It was a 1-possession game in the fourth quarter. K-State's got the number 21 strength of schedule in the country. As I said, they've got to go on the road to BYU, Colorado, Iowa State all this year. They have a ranked win now over Colorado. Iowa State has a Big Ten road win at now 5-3 Iowa, number 39 strength of schedule in the country. I think these resumes are certainly not horrible. They're good enough that all these teams should very, very much be in the at-large conversation. As I stated earlier, you need the teams to continue to win so that as you move on, there will be bigger and bigger wins on the schedule for a K-State or an Iowa State when that game happens, and then whoever is going to meet up in the Big 12 championship game as well. But in all honesty, I tell you guys all the time, this really doesn't matter that much because the AP poll has lost so much value in the college football world, right? I mean, at one point in time, it was everything. Literally, you want to win a national championship, get to number 1 in the AP poll. Now, we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world with a college football playoff selection committee that I would actually argue has been nicer to the Big 12 than the poll has generally, at least lately. And I know this is an example that hits close to home, but 2 years ago, K-State had 3 losses and they were still in the top 10 of the final regular season college football playoff rankings. So they got a lot of respect. They got a lot of respect from the committee. And I would also throw in there that the SEC and Big Ten are already talking about trying to do away with the committee, whether or not they need to do that. They have trepidation about it, which would tell you that they think that the committee would be more deferential to the Big 12, ACC, whoever it might be, G5, just anybody that's not the SEC or the Big Ten. We will find out how the committee this year is going to handle things, and we will find out in 8 days. And that was my point about, I don't think it matters much in general right now. And I try to tell you guys, don't stress about it too much. I know it's infuriating at times, but we really don't have to worry about it beyond the 8-day mark because we'll start to get the playoff rankings, and that's what matters. Nobody cares about the AP poll anymore. I mean, that's fine. You guys can continue to vote, but we don't care. What's the Stephen A. Smith clip? We don't care. It doesn't matter. It will be all about the College Football Playoff Selection Committee and where they are going to have Big 12 teams. And I hold out some hope and optimism for that they will do the Big 12 much better than the AP poll actually will, just based on hyper recent history and maybe just hope and a prayer. But I'm thinking that very well could be the case and keeping a lot of those teams in more at-large contention. So anyway, don't lose too much sleep over the media jabronis, all of us media jabronis that sit in press boxes and vote in that thing. Did I notice that there was somebody who dropped K-State completely out of the poll from 18 to out this week, even though they did win a game at home against Kansas and improved to now 7-1 on the season? Yes, I did notice that. I did. But I will not be thinking about it when I go to bed tonight. I will not. So I trust that you guys won't be either. All right, a couple of these. This is what I'm saying. I feel like something's going on here. We saw these earlier, but I want to raise it again because it's come back up in my order here. The super chats with Daniel. Thank you for your support of the channel as well, or as always, and popping in to talk about Sunflower Showdown, K-State, the Chiefs. Alan as well. Very classy remarks as always. We got Daniel again. We got Clint. Thank you, Clint. Shout out to my guy Clint for that. Rise and shout. Says approximately a 40 to 70% chance that Farmageddon is a conference semifinal. It may well be. And look, that's something that's been talked about a bit. Is the future of this conference going to be some dynamic scheduling where you could hold out and do that the last week, where you have one team getting a bye the last week, the top team in the league, and then you have 2 play 3, 4 play 5, et cetera, and you could basically have that semifinal every year. The Big 12 may get it working out in a de facto way this year. Very, very well could happen. And that would be really compelling TV for everybody, not just in the Big 12. That makes for a really compelling matchup for everybody, which would be a great thing for the league. Eddie, what's up, Eddie? Eddie says, forgot to give West Virginia their props. Hey, all right, there we go. And yes, K-State pulled one out. School setting foundations for future success. Go Big 12. Thank you, Eddie, for not forgetting our Mountaineer friends. Nico, man. Nico got the win as the starting quarterback for the Mountaineers. So shout out to Nico for getting it done. And for Neil Brown, who he won't quit, man. You can say whatever you want about Neil Brown, but the guy just keeps going. The guy just keeps going. I am reminded a bit of it's Austin Powers, but I don't remember the context. I just remember Austin Powers at one point fighting somebody. He's like, why won't you die? And it's a little bit of that in Neil Brown, where I feel like West Virginia fans have been out for a while, but he keeps finding ways to win enough games to stick around. So we'll see what happens the rest of the year with Neil Brown. David, what's up, David? Appreciate you, David. Thank you for being here. It has been a minute, David. It's great to see you. David says, what's up, Kurtz? It's been a long time since I've been able to catch a live. Always appreciate your content. Thanks for your work. Go Cyclones, ISU. Well, David, hope you had a nice, relaxing bye week and got to kick up your feet and enjoy watching everybody else sweat it out this week. Thank you, David, and I appreciate you, man. Hope to see you before Farmageddon. We're definitely going to need a little banter before that, David. So thank you. Hiking Cat says, sorry for my first chat in ages being a downer. But K-State dropping a spot and only a couple of votes from dropping 2 spots after a win doesn't seem like a lot of respect for the Big 12. It is not, Hiking Cat. As I just mentioned there, it's pretty stupid. It's pretty dumb. I would hope that the same penalty is going to apply across the board to a lot of teams. But I don't imagine that it will be applied that way. I also would suggest that watching college football with some actual intent and nuance. And I know the problem is it's hard for an AP voter to be able to do it with this level of intensity in every game. But if you were paying close attention, you realize Kansas had a lead in 4 of the 5 games that they had lost going into Saturday in the fourth quarter. They led 4 of those 5 games in the fourth quarter. They're still a pretty talented team, and it's a rivalry game that they have not won in 15 years. So you're going to get their absolute best shot. There's no shame in winning that game by 2 points. There's just not. And, would I have preferred a more comfortable game? Yes, I would have, but there's no shame in it. You should not be penalized that way for it. I realize it's not just a referendum on K-State. There are other games happening and other teams playing, but I already pointed out to you a couple of the 2 lost teams in front of them that, seems a bit silly. Eddie says, keep winning. This will be the only way to shut them up. SEC fans watch Big 12 games because the games are good and they are well-versed in college football. Well, you're definitely right. The only way to shut anybody up is to make noise in the playoff. Keep winning games. Keep getting your 4 teams up there into double-digit wins, like I talked about being a possibility. But, yeah, the only way to really, truly shut everybody up is absolutely to win games in the playoff. That is when it will matter. So thank you, Eddie. Thank you. Michael says AP voters feel a loss at BYU is worse than Northern Illinois. You're right. Sure seems that way, man. Sure seems that way, but they've got that golden dome on the helmet. I don't know. Have you seen the movie Rudy? I mean, they made a movie about him, so they must be good. Matthew, keep up the good old work. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you, my friend. All right. If you guys want to pop in, make sure your chat gets read. Click the $ below the chat box. We've got a lot of people in here, so I'm going to say it again. Please subscribe to my Big 12 newsletter. If you want none of this Big 10 or SEC bias that you get in the AP poll, and you just want college football news straight to your inbox and how it relates to the Big 12, a primer for each week's Big 12 games, reaction to the Big 12 games, power rankings, the news and notes you need to know, and just how it affects the Big 12. You can get it to your inbox at ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com. Join 2,600 other Big 12 fans who are reading now. Open for Business, my Big 12 newsletter. You can also find a link in the description of this video if that is easier for you. So here's an important point to make. Can we stop with the BYU disrespect? And I'm not just saying humans. This is also computers, because the real disrespect this weekend is the fact that BYU was a freaking underdog at UCF. Now, UCF had a 3-4 record going into the game. This is not meant to be an attack segment on UCF or take down the Knights. They have not been very good this year, if we're being completely honest. And yet they were a favorite over unbeaten BYU at the Bounce House. I know the Bounce House can be tough to play at, but what are we doing with that? It's not just humans. Computers. Vegas relies a lot on computer models. Computers not been fans of BYU. If you look at Parker Fleming, who puts up the net success rate graph every week in college football, did we really get beat that bad? With the premise being there, if your net success rate was very high, like your success rate was much higher than your opponent's, you probably should win the game. And there have been multiple games where BYU has been on the losing end of success rate, particularly the Oklahoma State game where they got killed in success rate, but yet they won the game. And so a lot of people would ascribe that to, okay, well, there's a little bit of luck going on there. There's a little bit of luck going on. But how many wins is it going to take before we just stop doing that? You know? How many wins is it going to take before we stop doing that? I thought that this was a very appropriate way to sum it up from somebody that I saw on Twitter. Beans on toast. Good work here. Beans on toast. And it was a tweet from earlier this year. That was September 6th. So that would have been what, like week 2 of the college football season? Oh no, BYU is going to start, whatever it would have been at that point, like 5-0, and their fans are going to think they're good. A derogatory statement about BYU there at the beginning of the year. And every week he's got to update it. Oh no, BYU is going to start now 8-0 and their fans are going to think that they're good. We got to keep doing the graphic, everybody, because people, computers, humans, everyone still keeps finding a way to doubt the Cougars. And you're making yourself look silly because you looked very silly on Saturday. Very, very silly. BYU's up 34-10 late in the third quarter there. Cruise control after that. Yeah, UCF made it look a little bit closer when they went to, a third or a fourth. I think it's the third quarterback besides KJ Jefferson that's played, right? They're just playing quarterback musical chairs, quarterback roulette, seeing if something will work. And it got them a bit of a spark to make the game look closer than it actually was. But that was not a close game. BYU had over 40 minutes of time of possession. They outrushed UCF. And if you're outrushing UCF, the Knights are not going to have any chance of winning. That's just, it's not how it's going to work based on how that team is built right now. So you will look silly if you continue to doubt them. But yet, it's happened, it feels like, for 5 weeks in a row since people started really paying attention to BYU. It's happened virtually every single week. The K-State game, I mentioned the success rate piece of this, right? That net success rate graph had K-State, the team that should have won the game or would have been expected to win the game. That's the language I should definitely be using on that. Based on success rate, you would have expected K-State to win the game, but yet BYU won 38-9. And so popular talking point, listen, I heard it a lot. I even bought into it a bit, was that there's a bit of a flukiness to that game because the success rate would show that K-State should have won. It was just a barrage of turnovers that seemed a little bit fluky. And so everybody thought the next week, all right, well, they're going to Baylor. Baylor hasn't been great, but it's a road game, and there's a comeback to earth factor here for BYU. And guess what happened? Not only did BYU win, but they won as a 3.5-point underdog. They were a 3.5-point underdog at Baylor. Everybody's popular, I guess you would say, upset pick. Although, according to the Vegas spread, it wouldn't have been an upset. But everybody's popular pick there was BYU to go down. They went on the road and they won. They jumped way out in front, had to hang on a bit. But they came out and for a large majority of that game just pummeled Baylor. All right, then the Oklahoma State game last week. I heard a lot of people saying, hey, Mike Gundy off a bye. They're pretty desperate. Again, BYU's got to have a come down to earth moment here at some point. It got close, but they found a way to win. They had their, again, to me, hypno-toad in a hurry moment. If you're back to the 2022 TCU team, they had the game where they squeezed by Baylor in a game that shouldn't have been that close on a last-second field goal. They had that sort of a moment, but you know what? Damn it, they won. BYU won. Doubted again, they won. And then now we do it all over again. 3-4 team. BYU's going on the road to play a 3-4 team, so let's make them a 1.5-point underdog at sub 500 UCF. And then you look up middle of the third quarter, it's 34-10. And BYU has completely controlled the game. They outrush UCF, beat them at their own game. They're just a more physical team. Like, it just, I don't know how people, I guess I get UCF maybe arguably should have beaten Iowa State. They were very much in that game to the final, but how you would have thought that consistency was going to happen with a team that's been switching quarterbacks the way that UCF has. I just didn't see it. And the last time they had been at home where we saw them in a big spot, well, first of all, they lost to Cincinnati, but before that, they got clocked by Colorado. I don't know how anybody felt like that was the move this week. It definitely wasn't. And now I can guarantee you some of this, maybe because of the BYU cynicism that we already heard from earlier in the chat, but we're going to hear the same thing about this Utah game. Well, we're due for a BYU regression, come back down to earth game. And hey, this is a rivalry, and Utah is going to be coming off of a bye with a chip on its shoulder, hearing about how bad things are, some time to tinker with a new offensive coordinator. They've won 9 of the last 10 in the series. They should still have a mental edge there. This will be the game where it all comes undone. Now, I don't think BYU is going to actually be a Vegas underdog, but I do think you will hear a lot of people buying into that narrative because every week we just wait for BYU to finally, the other shoe to drop. Everybody is waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it's not. It's not. And a lot of the narratives about BYU, I feel like one of them that's out there a lot is, well, there's, good defense, but, it's not really good enough on offense. That's not an offense that can get it done. I have been guilty of this year, looking at it like, I don't know that the offense has the upside for them to really keep doing this. But stats don't lie, man. Numbers don't lie. They lead the Big 12 in scoring in conference games. BYU is scoring 38 points per game in the Big 12. Now, as a K-State fan, I understand that, in that game, they have a punt return for a touchdown, a scoop and score. There were a lot of things the defense did to help set that up. But they literally lead the Big 12 in scoring offense in conference games. And they've scored 34 plus in 6 straight games for the first time since 1996. Like they're finding a way to get it done. And that would, to me, tell you that the offense is probably better than you think, or than a lot of people are actually giving them credit for. So shout out to the Cougars for that, man. They are becoming better on that side of the ball, where the defense has really been a rock, I feel like, for them to lean on the entire year. This is becoming a legitimate thing, guys. This is not just some cutesy conversation anymore. Like, they're 8-0, and the toughest game left on the schedule is at Arizona State, which won't be easy. And, we'll see what the health is going to be of Sam Levitt the rest of the year. But the other 3 opponents that they're playing besides ASU are a combined 4-11 in the conference. And even if you throw ASU in there, their Big 12 schedule left, those teams are 6-13 in the Big 12. So this very, very much can be a thing. We're not asking BYU the rest of the year to have to go beat Texas A&M or beat Notre Dame, these teams that we were talking about in the AP poll in front of them or right around them. We're not asking them to go do that. You're asking them to go beat Arizona State. You're asking them to go beat 1-4 in the Big 12 Utah. That's a much different task. They've cleared all these hurdles that everybody thought were going to be the thing that really tripped them up. And now they have games that on paper look even more manageable. So I would just say continue to doubt BYU if you want to continue to look foolish, because I think you will. I think you will. And I think we're at the point now where in terms of on one hand, all that matters is continue to win games, get to the Big 12 championship game, continue to win games. You have that control of your own destiny if you're BYU. But a lot of the reason that we're having this conversation is about what happens if they don't win the title. If BYU has a loss, drops a game. That's why this matters. Because if we're and this is an attitude adjustment for us now in this new playoff era, but in this new playoff era with a 12-team playoff and there's an auto bid for winning your conference, it doesn't really, this is why the AP poll matters even less, kind of, because just keep winning, win your conference, and, there's no debate. You'll be in. I guess then we can, maybe debate seed based on what happens if the committee were to put you as the 5th best conference champ behind like a Boise State, which another AP poll annoyance from me is where Boise State's at there, but I digress. But there's not going to be that much of a beef. You win, you're going to be in. You should get a top 4 spot, a top 4 seed in that playoff. The problem here will be if there is a loss, say in the Big 12 championship game, you drop a close game to K-State, drop a close game to Iowa State, close game to Colorado. What happens then? What happens then to BYU? And the fear obviously is the narrative has just been set already, where it's going to be you don't get the same type of benefit of the doubt that everybody is jumping over themselves to give to Notre Dame, who lost already this year to Northern Illinois. That's the problem. So yes, John, hey, who cares? Just keep winning. It'll take care of itself. Absolutely. But BYU may be in a position here at the end of the regular season where they've done enough that they should have the opportunity for a slip up to still get the chance to play in the playoff. Again, whole big picture point of the show, if K-State, Iowa State, Colorado keep winning the way they do, and then you get one of those teams, the Big 12 championship game, that will help, Quality losses. I know BYU fans have joked a lot about, well, we just don't have that quality loss that like a Notre Dame does or whoever. We don't have that quality loss. Well, maybe that can happen in the Big 12 championship game, and that'll be the final piece of the resume puzzle that's been missing here. Not that quality loss, but you need it to be a fairly quality loss. So congratulations to BYU. I am not going to be the one doubting, even as you go play the Holy War, and I know the recent history of that. I'm not going to be the one doubting there. I am well past. I feel like I learned my lesson earlier on that than most people did, including my 2 podcast co-hosts, as I mentioned, who were hard on UCF this past week. That was their pick of the week against the spread was UCF. I didn't like it. I still don't. And it turns out I was correct about all of that this week. All right, let's get to a couple more super chats as we work towards winding things down here on the show. Houston Cougars, Germany. What's up, Houston Cougars, Germany? I'm glad you're here. Service, Johan. Remember our agreement. I believe the agreement was that I would wear a Houston shirt if Houston beat BYU or beat Utah, right? Is that correct? I think I have that correct. And if I do, hey, someone give me a Houston shirt, I will wear it, or remind me of what it was specifically if I'm not remembering that totally accurately. Houston Cougars, Germany. But I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I'm checking the chat here, Houston Cougars, Germany. So let me know. But yes, I would be happy to. Congratulations to Willie Fritz. Huge win. The entire Big 12 was behind you for sure. I feel like outside of Utah fans, I think Big 12 fans are here for as much humbling as possible for the Utes. So thank you, Houston Cougars, Willie Fritz, everybody involved there. All right. Oh boy, I'm probably going to botch the pronunciation of the name here. I don't want to. My sincere apologies if I do. Kavoth, have you watched any of the BYU's The Cut videos? The K-State game is a hype one to watch. Go Cougs. Love being a part of the Big 12 and not independent. I think I watched a good chunk of the Oklahoma State one because it came across my timeline. I mean, it's excellent. Like anything that the BYU media team is doing is just going to be outstanding. And I got to see up close and personal how great all those people are, not just like how awesome they are to work with, but how talented they are and the resources that they have to work with there at BYU. I mean, it really is like second to none. It's outstanding. So yeah, I have no doubt that those are incredible. And I remember like 2022 K-State making its run to the Big 12 championship game. I really enjoyed the work that K-State's creative team did on all those videos. It's really fun to see those things really well produced when your team is winning like that. So take all that in, man. Enjoy them as much as possible. I don't know if I want to watch the K-State one, my friend. That's the only problem. But I would happily watch any of the others. I can't wait to. I'll check out the one that comes out this week after UCF. All right, Curtis, thank you for being here. Thank you for your support of the channel. I appreciate you, my friend. Appreciate everybody for being here. Okay, Houston Cougars, Germany. Let's finish this off. Do you have Twitter, Houston Cougars, Germany? Do you have Twitter or do you subscribe to Open for Business? There are two ways here. I will suggest either sending me a tweet or a direct message on Twitter, or subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com, or click the link in the description of the video and just reply to one of the emails that you get there. And it should send that back to me. And then we can discuss the details there. That would be my suggestion on that. So yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Houston Cougars, Germany. Thank you. Hema, dude, Hema is awesome. I got a chance to meet him. I believe I have that right. I want to make sure that this is correct here. I met so many people there. Yep. Hema was a great dude. So nice, so awesome to work with. On top of it, very sharp. Can't say enough good things about Hema and how awesome he was to work with. So yes, Michael, I would echo those thoughts. BYU Sports Nation is awesome, man. The whole crew, excellent. You guys are very, very blessed to have that. Very, very blessed. Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up for me today. Thank you guys again for bearing with me through the equipment troubles and a late start. Shoot, maybe I should do that every single week because the numbers were crazy today. We had a much bigger audience today with the late kickoff. I know, is this Big 12 After Dark just taking over everything? I've got to go after dark for everything. I didn't get back from Manhattan until 3 a.m. yesterday. I don't know that I can keep doing that, guys. Between Colorado and BYU and then driving back last night, I'm getting so much Big 12 After Dark. It's probably a little much for me as a 35-year-old now, but if it's going to produce numbers, I guess I've got no choice. But I sincerely appreciate all of you guys. Thank you so much. Subscribe to the Open for Business newsletter, Big 12 newsletter, ofbnews.com if you have not. That is one great way to support me. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Another great way to support me. Double check, even if you think that you are, because so many of you that watch are not, and that subscriber count really helps. So thank you to all of you who do that. And like the video, John-Kurtz-4 on Venmo if you want to get something in for the next show as well. A lot of good stuff today. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday and have a great start to your week. I will talk to you all soon.